Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in tonight. Today is the newest episode. June, is it the 1st or 2nd?
Second.
Oh, so we don't have to wear a mask anymore in Ohio. I thought it was the 1st. I was waiting for tomorrow. So, welcome to another episode of The H, an honest conversation about health, hemp, and happiness. I am extremely excited that I have Mr. Fuck Joe with me today. Joe, how are you doing? Yep, fuck Joe. And
Sorry,
from there,
speakers went out for a quick second.
No, ladies and gentlemen, I have Joe with me today. Joe and I have, if you don't know Joe's nickname, it is Fuck Joe, and that is not mainly, it is 100%, because Joe makes you look in the mirror and focus on getting the best out of yourself. And if you don't want that, guess what? You can go F yourself. Joe's just there to make sure he shows you how to push yourself through. It's said much better when we record it, but I like saying it out loud. Today's going to be a fun episode, buddy. We got Mr. Stephen Box with us. Stephen's launching a brand new podcast coming in soon. He's all about right habits, improving your health, reducing your stress, and help you get more done in less time. But most people struggle to stick with a habit long term. So I think he's unique because he thinks outside the box. Come on, Joe, give it to me.
Nope.
Okay. He gives you tools to create unshakable habits, even if you have zero willpower. Stephen has over a decade of experience helping transform both their bodies and lives. He holds certification in elite fitness trainer, online coach, transformation specialist, sports nutritionist, and behavior change expert. So he is a little bit of everything, and he's going to build you from the inside out. I hope you guys are ready for an episode about building up your best you and building up a future to change the world, because this guy is all about it. We've already been speaking with him in the background, watching his videos. Let's say quick hellos, and then we'll bring him in. Sound good, Joe?
Let's do it.
You got it. Stovetop Yum Yum, Brian Tracy. Yo, buddy. Good to see you, my friend. I'm happy you're here. I have a few others that are hiding in the background that haven't said hi yet. I see you back there, people. Say hello. Say what you're doing. Give us some love. We love to see you guys. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I am excited to bring in and let him teach us how to build healthy habits and help us be. I think that's going to be the name of the episode. Habit. I got it. I like it already. Healthy habits. You know what? We're going to let Stephen choose. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining. This is the HX and Stephen Box. Hello, Stephen, and thank you for joining us today. How are you, my friend?
Doing well, man. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. So, unshakable habits. Like, teach me how I can now have habits that are unshakable. Because truth is, I get shaken and it's like a tree falling off the apple. It just rolls away.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty complex topic, right? But I really break it down into a very simple framework. There's 3 parts. So the first thing is, most people, they start with a goal. And generally, when we think about goals, we think about SMART goals. But that whole thing doesn't really work. Instead, what I teach people to do is create a vision. You need to picture what your life is going to look like in the future. What kind of person do you want to be? What kind of activities does that person do? Because that's what you're aiming for. You're not aiming for nonsense like lose 10 pounds or be able to take your shirt off at the beach. You're looking for to be that person who's confident, who walks with a little bit of swagger in their step. You know, that's the vision you're trying to have for yourself. So you need to be able to take actions to become that person. So the next step in the framework is you got to develop certain skills in order to do that. If you want to eat better, but you don't have money to go out and buy a meal service and you don't know how to cook, well, something's got to give, right? You got to learn how to cook or do something if you want to eat healthy.
Right.
And then the last thing you do is you got to take actions to build those skills up, because it's great to say you're going to build a skill, but if you don't take the actions consistently, you don't get any better.
It makes sense. So now, what made you start this? Like, I'm just curious, how did you get into wanting to, like, did you have bad habits? Were you addicted to smoking or gambling? And you're just like, I want to change. How did you? Joe's over there laughing at me because
Because
I'm
we just
making
took
this.
like go right to bad habits instead of like, like maybe it could just been eating healthy. Like stick to the topic: smoking, gambling.
I'm just going with like you start with a framework and then work your way through that. Because for me, I know Joe's going to tell me my ADHD is a really bad habit. I don't sit still and listen to everything all the way through. Maybe, but how do I build a habit to get myself through that?
So for me, it actually started with my health. We could say maybe 2008, 2009. I was actually about 245 pounds.
Oh,
Now,
wow.
I'm only 5'7", so that's a lot. I was a big dude. It was like 3 of me. And so I dieted on and off for years, kind of did the whole fad diet, different exercise programs, all that stuff. And I would lose 20 pounds, put it back on, lose 20 pounds, put it back on, lose 20 pounds, put it back on.
Yep.
And I just eventually ended up getting fed up with it. And I said, you know what? There has to be a better way. I'm tired of eating like bland grilled chicken breast and salads, and I don't want to eat that way. And I don't want to cut out my favorite foods. So I wanted to figure out, like, how can I possibly still eat pizza and tacos and hamburgers and all that and lose weight? And so that's what I set out to do. And I had a lot of setbacks over the course of about a year, but I ended up losing 80 pounds. And it just sparked this new passion. And at the time I was working retail management, and I was like, you know what? I hate this job and I'm going to follow my passion.
Wow. With that, you lost 80 pounds. How long did it take to lose that weight? Because you didn't just like switch your diet and all that. You had to be doing a lot of other things, correct?
Yeah, it took me about a year. And one thing I always try to tell people is within that time frame, I actually hit about 6 different weight loss plateaus.
Really?
So it wasn't an easy thing to do.
Mm-mm. No, not at all. Joe is my guy that teaches. Like, Joe got his nickname because he hides Oreos from me because I'm not allowed them. So I tried. Yeah, that's his hiding spot. Mine is I like put them like somewhere and he'll find them and throw them away, and that's his way of helping me not eat bad. And I love it because
Easter on the regular.
Wait, what?
It's an Oreo egg hunt. It's like having Easter all the time.
Yes, that's exactly it. For me, I needed someone like Joe to help me like break that habit. And it's just because I have very little willpower. What would you say to someone like me who's starting out? Like, you've lost the 80 pounds and all that. I'd love to be able to eat better and all that. How do I start myself moving in the right direction? How do I become Steven?
So the first thing is I don't teach restriction. What I teach is, like, let me put it this way. This would be a good way to do it. So say you came to me, you're a client, and you said, you know what? I'm not willing to give up my Oreos. I have to have Oreos as part of my life, but I know I need to cut them out to lose weight. I'm going to say, okay, well, let's think about this for a second. So you don't want to cut the Oreos out. You're willing to cut them out for a little while to lose weight. But what's going to happen as soon as you lose weight? You're going to go right back to eating the Oreos, right? In the exact same amount. So either we need to be able to teach you to eat. They're vegan. We either need to be able to teach you to eat the Oreos as part of the process, or we need to figure out how to just get the Oreos gone forever, right? I mean, like me, I love ice cream. I could eat an entire gallon of ice cream in one sitting and not even think twice about it. So what do? I buy like these little containers of ice cream that are like this big, like, because I know I can't trust myself with anything more than that.
Right? So, okay, so that's a good boundary for yourself. You're setting yourself up. Yeah. With building these habits, you've done exercise in that as well, because you have a lot of things that you're a part of with I want to make sure I say them all right. Elite fitness trainer, online coach, transformation specialist, sports nutritionist, and a behavioral change expert. Those are a lot of things. Like, how did you become the man that you are going through those things? Like, where's a behavioral change that brought you into wanting to do these?
Yeah, so for me, it started with my personal weight loss and kind of getting that passion. And so I got certified as a trainer. And for a while, I just did in-person training with people. Well, after a while, I started getting frustrated because I'm like, some of my clients are getting results. A lot of them still aren't. So you know what? Let me go get certified in nutrition, because if I introduce nutrition into the equation, then people get the results I want them to get. Well, more people got results once I learned to introduce the nutrition part, but I still had people who weren't getting results. So then I started figuring out, you know what, there are other things outside of just what you eat and the exercises you do that have an impact on your ability to lose weight, to be healthy, all that stuff. So I learned behavior change. And once I learned behavior change, I was able to start helping a lot more people. And then that's when things kind of evolved. And I said, you know what? Fitness and nutrition are such a small part of the overall equation of this. And that's how the Unshakable Habits branding came about, because I wanted to go beyond just the exercise and the nutrition.
I love that. Go ahead, Joe.
I mean, that's kind of my big focus is the mindset and the mind, because so many, I mean, there's a lot of good influencers out there that look amazing. And unfortunately, in a cosmetic industry, so many people just look at their body and think, okay, they're the best. But it's not a reflection of knowledge. I tell people that all the time. Some of the best trainers might be a marathon runner. Doesn't mean they're going to train you to be them. They're going to train you for your goals. And the big mistake they all make is it's just before and after pictures for self-marketing. And, that's just for them, but that's not really engaging with the client, and it's not changing the client's mindset or helping them learn or grow or develop otherwise to refrain from going back to their old ways. And just like you said, you've dieted off and on, maybe even gained more weight on the back end. And that's a problem with a lot of these fad diets. I mean, I did it a long time ago. I feel most people that have ever been a little overweight have done it and on a Google search. And so I definitely like that you have an approach much further past nutrition and fitness, because I agree it's needed.
Yeah, and you're right. It does. It starts with the mindset, because if you go into something and you're focused on, okay, I need to lose 15 pounds, guess what? You will cheat yourself. You do everything you have to do to reach that number on the scale. And a lot of what you're going to do isn't going to be healthy, and it's not going to be sustainable. And what's the point of losing 15 pounds if you're going to put it back on?
Right. Or even put on 20 or 25 afterwards.
Right.
Wouldn't you say that's what a lot of people end up doing though? Like me, I yo-yo diet and all that. What would you like for people like that, building that up? I want to keep myself going. How did you do it?
Yeah, that's where that first part of that framework comes from, that vision. Because when you can create a vision for the person you want to become, now when you do something like a yo-yo diet, if that doesn't align with your future self, it creates that conflict for you, and you get to sense of that conflict, and it brings awareness to the fact that your actions right now have a future impact. Most of us, when we're doing something in the moment, we don't think about the future impact of it. We only think about what's going to happen in the next 10 minutes.
That's true. That's very true. When you started this, what was the biggest struggle that you've had through building your company and building this up? Like, I know you're just starting, but to build that mindset, to know you're going to be that leader, you have to have some pretty high goals for yourself.
Yeah. Again, for me, it goes back to the same framework. And the thing I like about this framework is it doesn't matter if it's weight loss, if it's building a company, if it's improving your marriage. You can use this same framework for everything. Who do you want to be? I wanted to be someone who impacted the health of other people, because I saw what losing 80 pounds and getting healthy and getting my stuff together did for my life. I saw how it made me feel, how I was able to become the person that I felt like I was all along, but just the weight was holding me back. So I had that vision. Then I went about developing the skills that I needed. When my clients weren't getting good enough results with nutrition or with exercise alone, I learned nutrition. When nutrition alone didn't work, I learned behavioral change. I kept adding tools to the toolbox.
I love how you phrase that, tools to the toolbox. So with these tools, Joe's over there smiling. With these
I
tools,
disagree. I mean, I'm a fitness guy, so I understand a lot of the journey.
Jump in here, buddy. You know how hard I try, and then I fall short. So building up these unshakable habits. I'm gonna have fun with Joe. I hope you don't mind, Steven. Like, how do you build up your best habits, buddy? Like, Steven's here, and I try, and I fall short on Joe's method, and that's why he gets F Joe, so I can blame him. Anytime I don't want to do it, I get to blame Joe. And that's the whole, like,
He
it's
dislikes
a joke.
blaming me, Stephen, just so you're aware.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
I mean, how do I build habits? I just do it. And I don't know. I'm not like the average person in that way. Like if I just know it's good and I need to do it, I just do it. But I can relate to Steven when I was younger and I was a little overweight before I started fighting in sports, and I lost 40 pounds in a couple months. Now I went real extreme and worked out probably more than I should have to obtain that, which in hindsight's not healthy, but I didn't know as much back then. Like I didn't know about the, eating. Like I was barely eating indirectly just because I was so tired from fighting, doing insanity and lifting at the same time. And then work, I valeted, I was running. So I was working out all day and barely fueling my body. So a lot of that weight loss was not really the healthiest weight loss. But, now looking back on what I've learned and what I've studied and research I've done, I can gain a lot of knowledge and understand that. And then like I've told Brandon, Stephen, you can kind of comment on this being probably more nutrition savvy than I am, is like I really just have dived into micro macros and wanting to master that just because I feel that gives people, like you said, less restriction and kind of gives them a little more freedom and makes that process a little easier to where a protein's a protein, but it gives them initially, they can kind of get that protein that they want rather than, because I've done the whole basic chicken, basic rice for months straight, nothing on it, and it's unbearable. Yeah. Like it makes me not like chicken anymore.
Yeah.
Or rice.
I've been there.
Yeah. So with that, Ben, how do you, Stephen, like I don't want to just eat chicken and rice and my sauces are there. And I don't want to just go to the gym because I don't like people. And that's me being honest. I go to the gym and in my head, I get there very quickly. I'm like, oh, I want to use this machine, but not this. But I have to create good habits. When you hit, I got it with COVID. When COVID hit, you had to start changing some of your habits while building this, I'm sure. What did you have to do to make those pivots to build up your unshakableness?
I was actually pretty fortunate with COVID for myself because I had moved my entire business online about 2 years before COVID hit. So for me, the transition to COVID was actually pretty smooth. But
nice.
I did go through a similar change of what everyone else went through last year, 2 years prior to that, because I did have to make those changes when I moved my business online. Because, no longer was there a time where I was getting out of the house. I was always here. And I found myself getting to the point that I would literally volunteer to go do the grocery shopping for the week just so I could get a mental break from the house.
That's funny. I mean, it makes sense. You need that now and then. Did you find yourself getting into habits of buying anything you shouldn't because of needing to get out of the house? It started triggering bad habits.
No, and only because for me, I had already put so many things in place. And that's really where I teach people unshakable. The reason that word is there is because these are the type of habits that even when life gets crazy, they still stick in place. And one of the big things that people do here, and I think you kind of alluded to this, Brandon, was they try to do too much. They try to go too strict. They try to go too hard on it, and it's not sustainable. So if you can do things that are simpler and build up your skills, build up your tolerance, build that willpower muscle up, it becomes easier. So for example, for me, I had rotator cuff surgery a couple years ago. Tore my right rotator cuff playing tennis. And coming back from that, getting back into the gym was a bit of a challenge for me because I had gotten so used to working out. And here I was, I hadn't worked out in like 4 or 5 months by the time I fully recovered. And so getting back into the consistency of that was really difficult. And the hardest part of it for me wasn't necessarily the working out part. It was realizing the fact that, some days just getting 10 push-ups done was a win because I had gone from, I was working out an hour and a half every single day. And so to mentally tell myself, hey, it's okay if you only get 10 minutes in today. The goal was to move.
So would you say it's also being able to build yourself up through those? Because I know, like you just said, I think it's a phenomenal way of saying it. It's seeing the little victories along the way.
Yeah, it is. It's all about building consistency. And here's the thing. I've actually had clients. I'll show you an example of how far I broke this down. I've had
Mm-hmm.
clients who absolutely hated the idea of going to the gym.
Mm.
And so what we started with was, I just want you to put on your running shoes every day.
Mm.
Like,
Okay.
that's it. They didn't even have to leave the house. Just put on the shoes, right? And then they're like, okay, cool. Now you've put on your shoes for like 2 weeks straight. Okay. Get in the car and drive to the gym. I don't care if you go inside or not. You can sit in the parking lot, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
they did that for like a week or so. And then they're like, okay, this is stupid. I'm like, what's stupid about it? They're like, well, if I'm driving to the gym, I might as well go in. Okay, then go in. And then they go in and they're like, well, if I'm going in, I might as well do something. Okay, we'll do something. And we didn't even ever, it's not like I said, okay, go in and do 10 minutes on the treadmill. I was literally like, okay, just go in. I don't care if you go in and look around and leave, right? Because it's building the consistency of, you're building in your mind, you're the kind of person who goes to the gym on a regular basis.
Mm.
You're the kind of person who thinks about exercise on a regular basis. Once you got your mind to accept that you're that person who exercises and goes to the gym regularly, the actual workouts are not really that hard to do.
Very well said. You're a sports guy too. So going to the gym, was it easy for you?
I wouldn't necessarily say it was easy. I did have a little bit of a background from playing sports in high school of working out. As I'm sure Joe will confirm also, the things that you learn as a teenager in high school or even in college playing sports, you don't really learn how to work out the right way. You don't. You think you know what you're doing, but you find out later on that high school coaches are not the greatest teachers in the world of exercise.
It's getting you into there like you're doing. They get you to get the shoes on and then like teach you a few things.
Yeah,
So,
unfortunately, some of the stuff they teach you is detrimental, and then
Yep.
you get older and you think you're 20 still, and you try to go in there and you overdo it, and then you end up injuring yourself. And here's a newsflash: you can't work out if you're hurt.
That's right.
True. Joe's always trying to hurt me, but
No,
he makes
no.
sure I'm doing it. He makes sure I'm doing it the right way. He hurts me mentally.
By taking your Oreos, I gathered.
Psychological warfare.
You know, just for my defense, I've never heard him say I miss Oreos in like 2 years.
It's all coming
Actually,
out now, right?
Nah, the truth is I haven't had them, and that's a good step for me. It's become more of a joke than anything. And I miss my Oreos, but he's right, and I just use them to have fun with Joe on this now. Beyond Moving Pictures asked a good question. What are your viewpoints on eating more calories than you should to build muscle? Or is that also just considered a mental barrier?
So I'm going to assume that the question there is, they know that they have to eat more calories than what they need for maintenance in order to build muscle, but they're struggling to do it.
Yeah, Ryan, are you saying you need to eat more to bulk? Is that like kind of what you're getting at? So Steven can answer like more properly, I guess.
Yeah, that's kind of why I read it like with the way I did.
I've been reading it and trying to assume because that's something I've had to do in my life, which to me is worse than dieting. But that depends your body type and I guess who you are. But yeah, that's where building good habits has been a struggle for me. This is when I have to consume a large amount of food and I don't want to.
And it's funny because the secret to actually building muscle is just to do the exact opposite of what it takes to lose weight.
Right.
Except for where most people mess up in trying to build muscle is that you just go for like the super high calorie, high fat stuff that has like no nutritional value whatsoever. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you, the hardest thing to do in the world, because at one point I decided I was going to put on like 20 pounds of muscle, and then I decided it wasn't worth it because I started trying to eat enough healthy food to put on 20 pounds of muscle. And man, that's a lot of food.
It is.
That's a lot of food. Like, but with you doing that, like, did you end up gaining the weight you wanted and get the results you wanted, or did you realize that it was probably more work than you were hoping for, and you focused on toning instead?
Yeah, it was more work than I personally wanted to put in. So I always tell people that's an important thing to recognize. Like everyone, even weight loss people, you know, everyone kind of comes in with the vision of, oh, I'm going to have 6-pack abs. Do you realize what you have to do to get 6-pack abs? Do you realize
Right?
how much you have to diet, how much you have to eat, cut out, all the times that you can't go hang out with friends, all that stuff you have to do just to get six-pack abs, unless you are genetically blessed?
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not worth it for most people.
I'm one of those
I was-
people it's not worth it for.
Yeah.
See, for me, I'm the guy that I have a keg, and I'm kind of like just accepted this is what I'm. No, I'm just kidding. Joe's looking at me like I'm gonna beat the hell out of you tomorrow at working out. So Ryan shot back with, I guess I'm losing weight, but the muscle isn't happening as well as I would like. So I think the question then goes more towards how do you keep losing weight while gaining muscle? It would be the question that he's actually trying to do.
Right.
So this is a good question, because here's the thing, and I think people miss this because we don't use correct terminology. There's weight loss and then there's fat loss. Weight loss is all about calories in, calories out. If you are in a calorie deficit, the weight number goes down. If you're in a calorie surplus, the number goes up. End of discussion. You cannot put on muscle and lose weight at the same time. You can, however, burn fat and put on muscle at the same time.
Oh,
Because to put on muscle, you have to be in a calorie surplus. You have to eat more calories than you burn to put on muscle. But you can burn fat while you do that.
Joe.
Oh, I mean that's something I tried to explain to Ryan, and a lot of people at the gym in general is I mean they see a lot of influencers, right? Everything's by these famous people that get paid and have all the time in the world to look that way. And another factor people don't factor in, and I don't want to bring in like a dark topic onto the show, but I'm sure Steven's dealt with it for a long time, is the people that generally lose weight, lose fat, and gain muscle at the same time, they cheat, they do steroids.
Yep.
And I don't judge those people. I'm very big on your body's your temple. It is, so I don't judge. If they want to do that, that's fine. But it gives a very misconception to the average person that's following their workout plan or their advice if that person's not honest. Now, some of the influencers, respect to them, they're very honest people. They're open about it, but not all are. And, that's where you kind of get that misconception. And it's like Steven said, fat loss is different than weight loss. So I generally try to get people, if they're very overweight, and Steven can correct me on this, I try to get them to lose some weight first, and then we can focus on fat and muscle. Yep. That's just my approach. I'm sure he could have maybe a better one. So I'd love to hear like his answer on the question, I guess. I would rather hear Steven's advice. He does have a lot more experience in the years than I do.
Yeah. I mean, my approach is I get people to do exercises that can help to start build some muscle, because you do want to build at least a little bit of muscle just to get that metabolism up. But in terms of focusing on big time muscle gain, no, I don't even allow people to start having that conversation until they are at least under, I'd say about 15 to 18% body fat.
Yep. Yeah, Steven, I try to get clients, like you were saying, some muscle gain for like the LMT, the lean muscle tissue. That's kind of my main focus, because I know that's very hard to get, is to teach them about that, why it's so beneficial. But that's not the stuff you're seeing, Thor walk around with in the Marvel movies, besides the last one. You know what I mean? And it's these celebrities, they have the whole package, and it's kind of hard where a lot of people don't realize, like, guys have a lot of pressure too to look good. It's not just females. Like, you look at these macho guys, and it's like, wow, I work so hard, I eat healthy, and I don't look anything like it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, listen, you've never seen the list of like sexiest men alive, with a bunch of like 300-pound dudes, right? It's just,
that's true.
True. Very true. Very true. Would you say that starting with mental health would be an essential thing as well? Like, have you noticed that plays an influence on what you go through?
Absolutely. I mean, everything starts with your mindset. One thing that people don't necessarily think about is most of our thoughts aren't even conscious. They're actually subconscious thoughts. And when you mentally don't believe in something, or you don't think that you are worthy of something, you self-sabotage. You have to be able to believe in yourself. You have to have a healthy mindset in order to actually get a healthy body.
I think that's a great way of telling me that the reason I can't lose these last few pounds to get my six-pack is because of me. Steven, I love it. He just said it so calmly.
He's just like, yeah, I already went over how a six pack is not an easy feat, but sure, that's what it is.
So, guys, I'm going to pull up Steven's YouTube network for everybody to give him a subscription. Do yourself a favor and make sure to sign there. Joe, go ahead and ask your question while I pull this up. Ooh, wait. Go ahead.
I mean, it wasn't even going to be so much a question. I mean, a lot of people don't even understand what stress really does to the human body. And that's why, mental health and the mindset is so important in fitness. It's not even just that it's important to create that framework and vision, like Steven said, or goals of people, or like their checklists, whatever it may be that works for them best, is it does a lot of nasty things to your body. And that's why, like, I tried to learn about stress myself, just being educated to understand, like, if I'm in a stressful couple of weeks, I'm not sleeping well, but I'm eating clean, I'm working out, but how come I'm gaining weight? It uses process of eliminations, how I've done it for myself personally, not for others. But it plays a really big role.
Oh yeah. I mean, just to give you a really good example is when I first got into training, I still had about 20 or so pounds to lose. And it was very stressful because I'm sure you can imagine going to gyms, trying to get hired on as a trainer, trying to get employment when you still have 20 pounds to lose is very difficult. Like people, even though at that point I've lost 60 pounds, people are
Which
like,
is
yeah,
very
but you're
impressive, by the way. I do want to tell you, congratulations. That's not an easy feat, what you did that year.
I think you appreciate that. But, I go out and I had all this stress and I'm trying to get clients. I'm trying to do all this stuff and it just wasn't working for me. And I ended up developing IBS or irritable bowel syndrome as a result of my stress. And that actually made me start putting some weight back on. And that was the last plateau that I really hit. And as soon as I got my stress under control, because I didn't change anything else about my diet, because at that point my diet was really good. I was exercising regularly. I didn't understand why I couldn't lose those last 20 pounds. As soon as I got my stress under control, the 20 pounds practically fell off.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's just amazing. And that's definitely why I tell like a lot of people that I know that are very like they have stressful jobs, whatever it is try to manage your stress. Because I've went through it in my fitness journey and indirectly seen the side effects of how it affects me, or I'd be going to the gym exhausted, even though I slept for 12 hours, but felt like I slept for 1. And it was like I was almost wasting my time. I hate to say that, but I'd be at the gym and I'd do like 3 exercises and have 0 energy. And it's an awful feeling.
And I'll just say, man, people don't think about this. People don't think about stress necessarily because they don't feel stressed. But stress is just like being thirsty, right? Like, you know how they tell you, like, by the time you actually feel thirsty, you're already dehydrated.
Yep.
By the time you notice the first effects of stress on your body where they're actually noticeable, you are like so far past the point that you should have been taking action. It's ridiculous.
And that's I learned the hard way too with that, Steve. The first time the doctor was like, you must have a lot of stress, and started trying to teach me little ways to manage it and stuff because I was having stomach issues, sleeping. I mean, I had 5-6 things wrong: skin issues, weight gain, or just being bloated all the time, no energy. I mean, the list of horrible things continues.
Yeah.
How did you learn to balance your or control? I like that word better. Your stress.
Yeah. So for me, it always, and I use the exact same thing, whether it's changing your eating habits, whether it's changing your sleeping patterns, reducing stress, it all starts with awareness.
Now you're married. I was looking on your website. You mentioned your wife and all that. How do you say your wife's name? Because I was gonna read it, and then I thought I remember reading it and going, "Oh, I'm gonna mess her name up."
It's Marcelin.
Marcelin. All right, perfect. That's very pretty. You've been married how many years now?
You're putting me on the spot. How many years is 2004?
We'll just do a guesstimate because 2004 to 2020 would be 16 is 2021. 17 years. You've been married 17 years? You don't look old enough to have been married 17 years.
Believe it or not, I'm actually turning 43 in a couple months.
Wow. See, all right, guys, this is what you look like when you take care of yourself. You look 40. You're 43, and you don't even look like it. I love it. So you've been married. CK wrote that in. That means she had the answer before we did all the math. With that though, 17 years. That means your wife's seen you do these ups and downs. All right. Has she been able to provide you like ways of being there to support when you're not there? Like saying something like, hey, you're not in your best zone right now. What are you doing for you? Kind of like I have Joe. Joe would be my wife right now. Would you say, yeah, that was worth it for the look Joe gave me. Would you say that your wife has been there to help you with the ups and downs and keep you from being unshakable?
Yeah, I mean, my wife is my biggest supporter and has been very helpful, but I will go ahead and also put this out there. When you are in the middle of your struggle, when you are trying to make these changes, that person who's closest to you is actually the worst person in the world to try to help you because they care. And they care so much, and they're going to get frustrated because you know what? There's going to be times you're going to say you want something, you're going to say you're going to do something, and you're not going to do it. You're going to do the exact opposite of what you say you want to do, and it's going to frustrate them to no end, and they're not going to know what to do. So if you are trying to make changes, don't put that up on your spouse. Go hire a professional to help you. I've actually got a guy right now that I'm coaching that his wife, she eats good, she exercises, she does all this stuff. He has a lot of weight to lose, and she's been on him for years now about getting healthier. And finally, she just broke down. She's like, just go hire somebody. She actually went and found my website and told him, here, go talk to this guy.
That's awesome, though. Like, I think that's a very good point because how many people have relationships with somebody that you said it best, the people that are closest to you. Well, your wife was the person closest to you, and while she cares about you, I'm sure there was a point she wanted to throw you down the stairs. Like, I understand, right? He says
I'd be a bit disappointed if there wasn't, honestly.
So you also do a sports podcast. You go back on both. Are you part now? You're from Georgia. Who are your sports teams that you love to have in the that you talk about on your podcast, your sports podcast?
Yeah. Well, I'm actually originally from Florida, so my college team was Florida State. I stayed local for that, but I grew up in the '80s, so I'm a big Niners fan. I'm a big Lakers fan. Now, I always tell people, yeah, you might be able to say that I was a bandwagon person in the beginning, but can you really call a 6-year-old a bandwagon fan? I mean, just,
No.
I was a Bulls fan because of Michael Jordan growing up, and the Cavs were good then. I mean, he beat them, and I still rooted for Michael Jordan, but now I'm a Cavs fan.
Yeah, and I've stuck with them both since they were bad. Actually, the first 49ers game that I ever got to go to back at Candlestick Park, we went 2-14 that season.
We can relate from Cleveland.
Yeah, so I earned my fandom. Yeah.
I love how Joe said we're from Cleveland, so trust us.
Yeah, we can relate with you. Don't feel bad. We recently just feel the high life, and it's nice for once.
Yeah, finally. So, being a sports fan and having your own sports talk show, you have West Coast teams that you're a fan of. That's a little bit different and all that. How do you make it where you're able to like keep a healthy boundary for not wanting to cross over into being like an Atlanta fan with Julio Jones wanting to leave from Georgia and all that right now? Do you want to see him on one of your teams? And what's your basketball team? Because I'm going to talk shit, just so you know.
Oh, it's the Lakers. So after that game 5, I'm sure you have plenty to say.
Well, like we said, we're from Cleveland. I even have a LeBron tattoo on me because he won us a championship. I have no problem with him going to LA. I think he fits LA. I wish him the best there. He's already won you a championship. Yep. Do you think LeBron quit in Game 5 of the playoffs yesterday?
I don't think that he quit. I mean, that game was over, and I mean, a lot of people are going to make this big deal about him walking off the court. I don't care. It's not the first time he's done it. It won't be the last time.
Yep.
I don't care.
And I think the media makes too much of it. So let's say you're someone who's not a professional athlete, and you're dealing with these outside stresses, because I couldn't handle LeBron's stress of like people judging you for leaving the court and calling you a quitter and all that. How do people for their everyday life deal with haters like that? Like, we all have that person, that thing that triggers us like that. LeBron has to keep a good mindset and ignore a lot more people than we do. How would you recommend people to keep themselves on that unshakable habit? I just like your name, just so you know.
I like it too. It's interesting. I was reading a quote earlier, and they were asking Venus Williams pretty much the same thing of like, well, how have you dealt with, the media over the years and, the criticisms and things like that? And her response was, I just remember that every single person asking me questions has never and will never be as good as I am at what I do.
Wow.
And I kind of come back to that because it goes back to what I said before. Everything starts with a vision. When you know the kind of person you are and your actions reflect the vision of who you want to be, you don't care what anybody else has to say. Now, if your vision is someone who you see everything through to the very end, you never walk off, you're not the kind of person who's going to walk away, then you know what? It's going to probably bother you when people criticize you for leaving the court, and it should, because then your actions weren't congruent with the vision of who you said you were. But as long as LeBron is fine with that being who he is, that's on LeBron. That's why I don't care, because it doesn't impact my life any.
I love it. So tell us a little bit about your sports show. Because that was very well said. And there's a lot of sports radio. I hate sports talk radio because it's so loud. It is so angry at times. It is that fueled off of just anger. Yep. I love how you just phrased that, and you put it in such a great way. Tell us a little more about your sports talk show and like what you do, like what you guys do there and what you guys talk about.
Yeah, it's called the Play Callers Sports Talk Show, and we do a live show every Friday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Okay.
So for us, we actually started the show in November of 2019.
Okay.
Which means that we started, just shortly before the entire sports world shut down for 4 months.
Right.
Right.
And I think those 4 months were actually a blessing for us. Because what we had to do during those 4 months, we had to create topics. And what we didn't want to do, because again, going back to our values, we didn't want to be the, clickbait people. We didn't want to sit there and just say controversial things for the sake of saying controversial things. We wanted to actually bring people intelligent sports talk. And everything that we talk about on the show is just either facts or opinions. And if it's an opinion, we don't try to play it like it's a fact. We don't go the ESPN method. We don't have one of us break a story and then bring the other one on as the expert who broke the story later in the day when there's nothing truthful about the story whatsoever, right?
Right.
And we also, when it's appropriate, when it's sports related, we'll talk about social issues or different things that are going on because that's life. It's all part of it. Sports are life. So we talk about all those different things on our show, and it's really meant to be for people who want to come on and actually have real sports conversations, not just people who want to get on here and have stupid arguments about who's the greatest of all time. And it's like, here people ask me, well, who do you think's the greatest? Look, here's my list. I grew up watching Jordan. Okay. Jordan's the GOAT. Kobe's my favorite basketball player of all time, and LeBron's the greatest of his generation. Do I care where you put those three in order or whoever else you put around them? Not really. It's my list.
I love that.
That is one argument that I've heard probably a million times, and it's just so like the argument itself is becoming outdated.
Yes.
The Michael Jordan LeBron one, and it's like different time periods, different play styles. Everything's so different, and that's I like what you said. I grew up watching Jordan, so to me he's always going to be the very best unless somebody's born in like 10-20 years that outdoes both of them, which good luck to you. But I think LeBron's the best of this generation, and the kids today will grow up favoring LeBron, just as we watch Jordan, Space Jam, and now look who's the next Space Jam. So
yeah. And there's somebody who's older than us that thinks that we're all idiots because we're not choosing Bill Russell, right?
Exactly.
Wilt Chamberlain.
Yeah, I
That's
mean, it's
mine.
just, yeah.
So with this all going on, you're a very busy guy, obviously, in all this. Tell us about when building up yourself and making sure to keep yourself going. What are some habits that you would recommend everybody start to build in themselves? And how do I find my vision, by the way? Sorry, that was going to be my next question is I keep forgetting. I see it on my notes. How do I know I'm following my vision and not letting others influence it? And I'm not just meaning me. I'm asking that as a vague question.
Yeah, so I'll answer the vision question first, then we'll talk about some of the habits. So think about it this way. If you were to put like we'll keep this in sports terminology, okay? Imagine you have like your NCAA bracket, right? Imagine all these opportunities and things that you might have coming up are on this bracket and they're competing with each other.
Okay.
Which ones are going to win? Because if you start thinking about it that way, if you're starting pitting these things against each other, here's where people think a lot of times, right? It's easy when you're making the obvious choice, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I come to you and I say, hey, do you want $1 million or do you want $100? You're like, $1 million, duh, that's an easy decision.
Right.
If I come to you and I say, do you want $1 million today? Or do you want $1.5 million 3 years from now? You have to kind of think about that one a little bit. You're like, do I want to wait 3 years? Will I still be here in 3 years? I don't know. Maybe I just take the $1 million now. Maybe I wait. So you have to kind of think about that a little bit. So when you're looking at your priorities, when you're looking at the things that come up, you'll just kind of instinctively know whether they're you or whether they're somebody else when you start comparing them against what the other opportunities are, because that's when you start to really find out what you care most about.
I like that. That's very well said. Sorry, Joe, go ahead.
No, it's very true. I mean, I do the needs and wants when it comes to spending money. It's not the exact same thing, but it's only that specific area. But that's how I've helped myself save money. Is do I need it? Like, I need a new toothbrush. Like, this one's worn out. Yes, I need a new toothbruch. I need deodorant. Versus, I like that hoodie. I've done like a needs and wants, so I can kind of relate that to the more overall life example of the bracket. I really like that because even when I was not a big basketball fan, like, people enjoy filling out those brackets. It's fun.
Yeah, they do. I'm really bad at those, by the way.
It's funny. Growing up, I would always fill them out and then just would see who would win. I would never pay attention like how many I did right or wrong, but I enjoyed just looking at the numbers and guessing.
I can't help myself. I keep putting Florida State in the Final Four. I don't know why.
They weren't even in the tournament last year. No, I'm just kidding.
Nobody was last year.
True.
Well, you were correct.
You won that one. You won. Last year, your team won the championship. Everybody can claim it. So now the other one, I forget what my second question was because I wanted to make sure I got the one about the vision in there.
You were asking about what habits.
Oh, yeah. Building the best. How do you build healthy habits?
Yeah. So one of the first things that I will have people do is set bare minimums. And bare minimums are things that ideally should increase over time. So I go back to my example coming back from a rotator cuff surgery, right? In the beginning, I couldn't do much. So I would say, if I do 10 push-ups a day, I'm staying consistent. And understand the consistency here isn't about the exercise, because I'm under no delusion that doing 10 push-ups is going to get me in shape, right? It's about the fact that I'm being consistent. I'm not allowing myself to take days off. So you get your 10 push-ups in, and then it becomes 25 and 50 and 100. And then the next thing you know, you say, you know what? Push-ups aren't really getting it done anymore. Now I have to add this to the equation. And then I have to add this to the equation. So that's one thing that you can do is just set bare minimums. And when I tell people bare minimums, this is my example of this. And I take this from Precision Nutrition, which is who I have my certification through. And I also work for them as part of the community engagement team. But they have this diagram. It's like a dial. And the concept here is, imagine that 0 is your off, right? Okay. You should never be at a 0. You don't have to always be at a 10, but you should never be at a 0. So bare minimum is a 1. So if 0 is sitting on your couch doing nothing and a 1 is doing 10 push-ups, then be at a 1 at a minimum, and then at least you're doing something. So that's the bare minimum concept. Another thing, if you've ever read the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, and a couple other people have also mentioned this exact same process, is attaching a habit that you want to create to something that you already do. So Joe mentioned brushing teeth. Hopefully everybody out there brushes their teeth every day. So if you have something you want to do, like your 10 push-ups, if you just say, I'm going to brush my teeth, and immediately while I'm squishing my mouthwash around in my mouth, I'm going to do my 10 push-ups. That's how you make it stick.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly, you've given a lot of great. I love the shoe one. Personally, like, look, just put your shoes on, and then when you're feeling right, then go drive to the gym. Well, if I'm going to drive there, I'm going to go in. If you're brushing your teeth, you make the habit. I think it's funny because Joe and I talked about this before. When you're sitting there and you can't get out because of COVID, doing something like your squats at your desk are a way of being. I like how you said don't ever be at a 0. Be at a 1. Like, guys, Stephen has a wealth of knowledge here. If you did not see, I've already subscribed to Stephen's new YouTube channel with his podcast being released. Go do yourself a favor, hit subscribe, hit that that notification button. He has a bunch of videos on here about building up making
the mindset mistake.
I literally saw
Gotcha,
2
buddy.
M's. I'm glad you
Those
can
vegan
read.
Oreos aren't helping for your brain functionality.
I haven't had any Oreos. Leave me alone. But like being able to have that there, Stephen's website shows everybody that you're able to have a conversation with him, communicative. You can have a conversation with him by scheduling up a consult, a book tour, a book for virtual presentations, and demanding pre-record trainings for groups. So if I wanted to hire you to have you teach Joe and I how to be working better as a team, that's something you can do, correct?
Yeah, I do speaking, and right now I'm not doing any in-person presentations, although that's something I've done in the past. So right now everything is virtual, or I can do pre-recorded trainings. I'm also coaching people one-on-one, which is what the first link on there is for. So it's it says fitness and health, but that's really any aspect of health. So I don't just limit myself to fitness and nutrition. It's really any aspect of health. And when you talk about health, that's your physical health, that's your mental health, that's your emotional health, that's your spiritual health, that's your relational health. There's like 6 or 7 components of health that you can easily work on. And the thing is, they are interconnected to each other. If I want to get physically healthy, I need to be mentally healthy. If I want to be mentally healthy, I need to be emotionally healthy, right? In order to be successful in these areas, I'm going to need a support system around me, which means my relationships need to be healthy. If any of those areas are lacking, every other area will suffer.
Honestly, I think he said it like that's a phenomenal way of talking about building yourself up and being your best you. So at the end of every episode of The H, this one was about healthy habits. I think we have to call it that, Joe. You win that one. We're not just going to call it habits. We're going to call it healthy habits. And I think that's a great name. Stephen, with that, at the end of every episode, we do a inspirational quote to a inspiring statement, something that helps people to get through the week. It's Wednesday, it's hemp day, it's hump day, whatever you want to call it. Maybe get your hemp from delightcafe.com and then get your hump on somewhere else. I don't know. But get through your week the best you can. With Joe and I here, I'm going to have him lead us off by telling us a inspirational way of getting through I'm not just going to hit the banner, Joe. You have no control.
I did the other one earlier.
You're lucky I like you as a human being.
I'm on 2 times on Wednesdays, okay? And it's not my fault. You were extremely busy and having some tech stuff this morning.
I had so much tech stuff. So Joe's famous quote that he loves to say every week is
Gandhi's. Don't take his. Don't let me take his credit.
I wasn't letting you take it. I'm just Joe. This is the one Joe repeats every week, and he's right. It'd be the change you want to see. I think that's a phenomenal way of telling everybody like exactly what you did today, like what you're doing. With developing unshakable habits, guys, it's really about being able to look inside on yourself. As I'm sitting here, I'm clicking on Steven's website, and I'm going through, and I've lost weight, but I could tell you right now, I have habits that I need trained. I have habits I need to get better on and keep getting stronger at. And having someone like Steven come on and be able to say, well, wait a minute, are you doing this for you or the judgment of others? In a way he did. And then honestly, Steven, the NCAA bracket blew my mind because you can literally put those up versus one another and break them down. And I think if you start with where you're having your biggest one, that's where you're labeling your champion right now. And taking it back out is like you saw me go, because I'm picturing my bracket. And I think for everybody out there, if you could picture your bracket of emotions and habits, what are you letting win? And how are you breaking it down to what is the vision to the champion at the end? Is it what you want in you, or is it something else right now? So make sure to take that time to go build that today. That's how we do it, Steven. You get the final words of the day, my friend. Take us out.
So I will leave you with my own final thought on this. The moment that you will realize that you have truly reached your success point is when things that you used to feel that you had no control over are now things that you can either choose or choose not to do.
Like that.
I like that a lot. Yeah, Steven, you have a wealth of knowledge. I really appreciate you coming on today. Guys, please check out his website, unshakablehabits.com. It's in the links here provided. Go to his Spotify, go to his YouTube channel, hit subscribe. Steven, I've already hit the button to let me know every time you post something so I can get it. My favorite thing you do is the 1 minute, like how it's like nothing more than a minute and a half, 2 minutes on everything you're doing for the Unshakable Minute. And you're teaching people how easy it is to like take care of yourself. Thank you, man. You are awesome. Thank you for being here.
I appreciate it. And I'll just tell you a quick thing with the 1 minute thing. I was doing like 5 to 7 minute videos every day, and it was getting to be a little bit taxing. So I took my own advice. I said, what would this look like if I simplified it? What would this look like if it were easy? Well, you know what? It's a lot easier for me to do a 1 minute video than it is to do a 5 minute video every day. I can make sure I commit. So I didn't turn the dial down to 0. I didn't say I'm getting a little burned out. Let me just stop doing these altogether. I just made it easier. I just turned down the dial. But it's funny because now people are actually getting more value out of the 1 minute videos than they did out of the 5 to 7 minute videos. So sometimes you do something because it works for you, and it ends up working for everybody else too.
So in the end, it all worked out. See, it was a good move.
It was, yeah. I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, go to Unshakable Habits. Help Steven's there to help you be able to connect and build your best you. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, this was Steven Box with Unshakable Habits. This is the H, an honest conversation about healthy habits, hemp, and happiness. Thank you guys for tuning in today.
Thanks for having me.